Hello?
The scene starts by showing where the world is in chaos, which is happening almost all over the world. Then a chimpanzee with a bound body is seen in a research center. Suddenly, a group of people bursts in. It looks like they are activists trying to release the chimpanzee. One of the scientists who saw the activists attempted to contact the research center security, but they thwarted him. The scientist also explained that the chimpanzee had a highly contagious and dangerous virus. The virus was named Rage. Those who heard the explanation did not immediately believe it. Then one of them opened the chimpanzee's cage. Sure enough, the chimpanzee attacked and bit one of the activists. Instantly, that person turned into a zombie. This is where the mess started. 28 days later, we are shown the situation at the research center. Then we see a man named Jim, who has just woken up from a coma in a hospital. Jim, who had regained consciousness, began to rush through the hospital room. But apparently, no one was there. Jim continued to explore room after room, but still, he didn't find anyone. He also tried to contact someone by telephone, but apparently, the telephone had not been working for a long time. Because Jim was tired, he took some of the drinks that were still there. He then rushed to leave the hospital. As he was walking out, another odd thing happened. It turned out that not only was the hospital empty of people, but it was the same outside. Even the city looked like a ghost town. Jim's astonishment didn't end there. He saw a newspaper that reported the number of missing people. Besides that, there were also lots of missing person stickers pasted in every corner of the city. Then Jim entered a church. How shocked he was when he saw the many piles of corpses in the church. In his heart, he wondered what had happened to human life today. Jim's presence apparently woke up some of the zombies that were there. Then a priest, who had turned into a zombie, tried to attack him. Jim tried to counterattack the priest zombie with the canned drink he had brought earlier. He immediately ran out of the church so that the other zombies would not attack him. As if he couldn't believe it, Jim was rescued by two people named Selena and Mark. They threw Molotov cocktails at the zombies until finally, Jim was taken by them to a hiding place. After arriving at the hideout, Selena explained to Jim that the entire city had been overrun by zombies. It was caused by the transmission of a very dangerous virus called Rage, which is a blood-borne virus and spreads very quickly. Government officials, police, and the army could not survive the incident. Telecommunications had been dead for a long time. They got the latest information that the virus had spread to Paris and New York. Jim was completely unaware of this heartbreaking event because, at that time, Jim had been delivering letters and had an accident. When he regained consciousness, he was already in the hospital. Jim also intended to go to his parents' house to make sure of their condition. Finally, Selena and Mark escorted Jim to his parents' house. They rushed away and stayed alert. It wasn't an easy journey amidst the zombie siege, but they finally arrived at Jim's parents' house. Jim rushed in to check on his parents' condition, but a heartbreaking thing happened. It turned out that both his parents had committed suicide by drinking poison while holding a photo of Jim as a child. Jim was devastated by what had happened. Because it was getting dark, they decided to rest at Jim's house. After Selena and Mark went to sleep, Jim played a videotape containing his memories with his parents. Jim didn't realize that the video was loud enough to attract zombies. The noise woke up Selena and Mark. They tried to help Jim, but unfortunately, Mark was bitten by a zombie. To prevent Mark from turning into a zombie, Selena was forced to kill him. It felt that this place was no longer safe, so they immediately left Jim's house and looked for another safe haven. On the way, Selena said that anyone infected with the virus only had 10 seconds, or a maximum of 20 seconds, before turning into a zombie. They saw a light from an apartment and thought that maybe there were still humans living there. They entered the apartment, which was already in ruins, not to mention the atmosphere there, which was quite scary. Feeling exhausted, Jim and Selena, who had been fighting halfway, decided to take a short break. But soon, the zombies, who knew their whereabouts, chased and attacked them. Suddenly, they got help. It turned out to be Frank and his daughter, Hannah. Realizing that there were other survivors, Frank was so happy that he threw a small drink party to celebrate. Jim used this opportunity to clean himself by shaving his already very thick beard. But Frank said that he had run out of water. The only way he could get more was to put lots of buckets on the roof of the apartment to collect rainwater. but it hadn't rained for 10 days, so Frank had to save water usage. Then they turned on the radio and received information stating that there were armed troops who had survived and were gathered at a location in Manchester. Between believing and not believing, they decided to try and confirm the whereabouts of the armed forces. They rushed to leave the apartment using Frank's taxi, as he was a taxi driver. On their journey, they had to go through a very dark tunnel. But unexpectedly, a new disaster appeared when a car tire burst. When they were about to change the tires, they were suddenly attacked by rats that had turned into zombies. They tried to avoid the attacks of the rats, but apparently that was the signal for the appearance of zombies. The zombies started arriving, more and more of them. Luckily, Hannah managed to change the car tires on time, and they escaped from the zombies. While on their way, they stopped at a supermarket and took important items, especially food supplies. It was like a miracle for them to find a supermarket without zombies in it. Like heaven on earth. When they were finished, they took gasoline from a fuel tank truck and continued their journey. From the road, they could see the city of Manchester in the distance, already engulfed in a massive fire. Fortunately, the location they were headed for was not there, but 27 miles away from the burning city. Long story short, when they arrived at the town where the soldiers were supposed to be, they found no signs of life. Frank, feeling disappointed, refused Selina's suggestion to leave the city. He was firm in his stance to find survivors among the military forces. In the distance, a very noisy bird was seen eating a hanging dead zombie. Frank tried to shoo the bird away, but drops of blood from the zombie corpse fell into his eyes. Frank began to tense up and show symptoms of turning into a zombie. Suddenly, soldiers who had been hiding and monitoring them appeared and had to shoot Frank to death. Jim, Selina, and Hannah were immediately taken by the soldiers to their military camp for evacuation. After arriving at the military camp, they were greeted by the leader, Major Henry. They were immediately given a room to rest. Selina felt very sorry for what had happened to Frank, which had made Hannah so sad. At the same time, Major Henry told Jim about the areas under his control. Jim was also introduced to Jones, the camp's cook, and Miller, a soldier infected with the rage virus but left alive in chains, so he couldn't go anywhere. During dinner, one of the soldiers, Farrell, said that human growth in the world was declining due to the zombie outbreak. However, he was confident that the situation would return to normal someday. In the middle of dinner, a siren suddenly sounded, indicating that zombies had started arriving. Thanks to the soldiers' alertness, the zombie attack was successfully repelled, and none of the zombies managed to enter. As they returned to the camp, Mitchell saw Selina carrying a machete and intended to abuse her. Jim did not accept Mitchell's treatment of Selina and tried to fight back. The chaos didn't last long, as Farrell intervened to defend Jim, Selina, and Hannah. He beat Mitchell. Major Henry, who witnessed the fight, did not accept Farrell's partiality. He ordered him to clean up the zombie corpses outside the camp. Then Major Henry took Jim into a room to talk. Henry revealed that all his troops were normal men who still needed women. He explained that many of his soldiers had committed suicide out of boredom and a lack of sexual release. Henry also told Jim that if he wanted to be free, he would have to give Selina and Hannah to them. Jim, angry and unwilling to comply, tried to leave with Selina and Hannah. However, as they were about to leave, Jim was suddenly punched, rendering him unconscious. Moments later, after regaining consciousness, Jim found himself in a cell with Sergeant Farrell. Farrell told him that the world was gradually recovering, as evidenced by TV stations beginning to broadcast and airplanes flying again. Shortly after, Jim and Farrell were taken by Mitchell and Jones to be executed. However, Jones couldn't bear to kill them, which created a conflict between him and Mitchell. Jim took advantage of the situation to escape. He kept running until he saw a plane flying overhead. This convinced him of Farrell's words, that life still existed somewhere in the world. Meanwhile, Selina and Hannah were still in the camp and forced to wear dresses because they were to be used as sex slaves. While changing, Selina asked the soldiers to wait outside. Once the situation was safe, Selina instructed Hannah to take drugs to numb themselves emotionally against the horrors to come. Unfortunately, the soldiers discovered them. At the same time, a siren suddenly blared, deliberately sounded by Jim. Major Henry and the other soldiers rushed to the source of the sound, only to discover that Jim had killed one of their members. Henry realized what had happened and got into a car to escape. However, Jim had tampered with the car's ignition, rendering it useless. Zombies began swarming the area. Henry panicked and ran back toward the camp. Jim, who had reached the camp, released the chained zombie soldier. Meanwhile, Selena and Hannah, affected by the drugs, were in a dazed state. Soon, the released zombie soldier began attacking the troops in the camp. Jones, in a panic, tried to escape but was stabbed by Jim. The entire army was eventually infected and turned into zombies. Jim continued searching for Selena and Hannah. Eventually, Major Henry returned to the camp and was furious to see the chaos. Jim finally found Selena and Hannah, who were being held hostage by Mitchell. Jim attacked and killed him, reuniting with Selena and Hannah. The three of them rushed to escape the camp. As they were about to enter the car, Henry suddenly appeared and shot Jim, hitting him in the stomach. Hannah, already in the driver's seat, sped the car into the camp to lure a zombie soldier. The zombie broke the rear window and attacked Henry, killing him. Hannah picked up Jim and Selena, and they quickly left the area. 28 days later, after the horrific event, Jim, Selena, and Hannah were seen gathering peacefully. They heard the sound of a plane passing overhead and rushed out to signal for help. Using a white cloth, they spelled out the word "hello" in large letters. The film ends with the hope that the plane notices them and that rescue is on its way. Subscribe and hit the bell for more awesome videos. Thanks for watching.